So it's a few hours before puck drop when the Montreal Canadiens go out there and play yet another game. I know Habs fans haven't really been the most on board with the team. I've seen a lot of Habs fans on Twitter and Reddit say they've just been kind of zoned out over the past few weeks in regards to Habs games, but we have ourselves some very interesting piece of speculation that I wanted to go over here today because I think there could be a few very strong opinions about this. So let's talk a little bit about Spittin Chiclets first and foremost, because I think everybody who watches this video and who watches my channel probably knows what Spittin Chiclets is. It's the podcast, one of the biggest podcasts in the world, where they talk about hockey-related subjects. It's got biz nasty, it's got wit on there, and they're very, very popular, and as a result, they get a very good selection of guests to come on to their show. Now, recently on the Spittin Chiclets podcast, they had Elliotte Friedman come on and they had a nice little chat about hockey. There's a tweet over here from Eric Islander who kind of sums up the ideas that I wanted to talk about here in this video because he types out what Elliotte Friedman and the Spittin Chiclets crew discussed on the podcast. Let's read this tweet over here right now. Elliotte Friedman on the Spittin Chiclets podcast said that he believes an offer sheet for Mathew Barzal is coming because it's so hard to come by good players nowadays. There's further speculation that Barzal wants to play more offensively than Barry Trotz will allow him, and that frustrates Barzal. So this first tweet over here kind of goes over the idea of a Mathew Barzal offer sheet. Now, if you didn't know what an offer sheet was, you'd probably have been living under a rock for the past few months, because an offer sheet is an offer from one NHL team to sign a restricted free agent that belongs to another NHL team. It's a restricted free agent and not an unrestricted free agent because if a player signs with an offer sheeting team, let's say, for example, a Sebastian Aho from the Carolina Hurricanes, he signs a contract offer from the Montreal Canadiens, the Carolina Hurricanes, the team that owns the rights to the player initially, has two options, either to match the contract and keep the player that got signed, or let him go and get some compensation in the form of draft picks in return. Now, we only see a few offer sheets actually go through, and they don't actually happen all too often. We have discussions, we have speculation that arises about this whole idea, but for the most part, the Sebastian Aho thing from last summer was like the only offer sheet in years that actually went through, and by going through, I mean the player in question actually does sign the offer from the other team, forcing the team that he was on beforehand to make a decision as to keep him or to get compensation back. Mathew Barzal is in a position where he is at the end of his entry-level deal. Once that expires at the end of this season, he will be an RFA, assuming the Islanders don't end up signing him to an extension before that date. Once he does become an RFA, he's susceptible to offer sheets, and he probably will get a few offers here and there, but whether or not he actually signs one is a different issue. He's really good, he's an 80-point player, or at least he was, but at the same time, Mathew Barzal is one of the speedy, quick centers who will define the next generation of NHL play, so we all kind of know that. Elliotte Friedman says that he believes an offer sheet will probably go over in place, and that the circumstances of how Barzal is being deployed in Long Island will affect the likelihood of him signing or not. Now, there is another very, 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 very interesting piece of news, not really news, ideas, speculation that arose from this Spittin Chiclets podcast. Eric Islander has a follow-up tweet over here. It also was speculated that Barzal's parents put him in French immersion as a child because his father hoped that Barzal would play for the Habs one day. Again, this was just speculation, not based off of sources. He's just shooting the blank with Spittin Chiclets. Now, if you didn't know about that, because I didn't know about that either, that Barzal is a French immersion student, let's go over to Pierre LeBrun's tweet from 2017. Let's talk about this over here. One thing that Pierre LeBrun didn't put in his Barzal article from, I assume, 2 years ago, is that Barzal is fluent in French. Barzal thinks his parents put him in French immersion as a kid in Coquitlam, BC, because his dad secretly hoped he might play for the Habs one day. And boy oh boy, if there was any idea of big ideas, splashes, a plan, quote-unquote, that we may have brought up in the past that Marc Bergevin and Claude Julien have supposedly been discussing with one another, this might be it. Obviously, though, the Habs coming into this discussion is just a combination of two very different pieces of news. Two very separate ideas being put together here for the sake of creating a story. Barzal is in a position where he may be offered a few offers, but whether or not he signs them is up to him, literally speaking. But as for the Habs, they're in a position where they did indeed try to offer sheet Aho last year. It worked for like an hour, and then everybody kind of realized, yeah, no, Carolina's just gonna match that. They have a week to get it done, but they're just gonna wait to pull the trigger on that one. But the Habs are in a position where they do have quite a lot of cap space. They haven't made a big splash. They haven't acquired a big player in a long time. You can say Tatar and Suzuki were big acquisitions, but that was for Max Pacioretty, who was probably a bigger asset than all of those individual assets together. Actually, I mean, literally it is, because they've traded one for like 3 things in that deal. But aside from that, Montreal has always been in the forefront of free agent rumors, speculation. Remember when Duchesne was a free agent? Yeah, that was a big one. And there are so many rumors about Montreal always being involved in these sweepstakes for players, whether that be for trades, whether that be for free agency, but they never seem to get it done. Only Aho was successful, and that was eventually matched and deemed unsuccessful. So, to me, there's this preconceived notion that Montreal is in a position that they would be willing to go out there and take these big risks and take these players and sign these guys and just go out there and make a splash, because they've tried so hard over the past few years. Heck, remember Panarin? There were so many Panarin Montreal rumors that were floating around too, and that didn't work out either. The Montreal Canadiens are hungry. They're thirsting for players that are really, really good. They're thirsting for star power, because aside from Shea Weber and Price, they don't have star power. I don't care what you say about Domi, Gallagher, Tatar, and all these other guys that they have on their team. None of these are quote-unquote stars. So, if they get a Barzal, who is indeed a star, and if they go out there and give an offer sheet to Barzal, 1, it wouldn't surprise me because Montreal is Montreal, and 2, now that that seed has been planted into my head where Barzal legitimately thinks that he was set up to play for the Montreal Canadiens ever since he was a child, those are a few puzzle pieces that kind of look like they could connect. Don't they? So, comment down below what you think about this. I know we're like 3 hours away from the Habs game, so this is just some primer to really open yourselves up to the world of Montreal Canadiens trade rumors and news, because I know a lot of Habs fans have been kind of burnt out from watching this team, myself included. The games have just been kind of stale. There hasn't really been too much to watch and actually cheer for, aside from Nick Suzuki, I guess, but like, man, I'm really just ready for the draft. Come on, Montreal, let's speed through time a little bit. Make some moves. Bergevin and Julien, let's see that plan that you guys said you had. If it involves a Mathew Barzal offer sheet, then oh my. Oh my. That's weird stuff. Hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.